Nappy here, and we are joined by Hopkinton High School Athletic Director Rich Cormier. Rich, how are you?
Hey, Tom. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Can't complain. Football's coming up, so that's always good, right?
Big news today with Cam Newton.
I know. That was a shocker to me.
Same
I
here.
did not expect that. But I think Mac Jones will be pretty good. And we'll be talking about that later with the guys on HCAM Sports Talk.
I'm sure.
But we got fall season coming up. I just caught up with the girls' soccer team the other day. They're looking good. Some great talent returning to that team. And, of course, we'll have football, boys soccer, field hockey, and girls volleyball. How's everything going so far in these summer practices and a couple scrimmages coming up as well?
Yeah, honestly, season's off to a great start. I think there's definitely a renewed energy this year, just hoping for a little bit more normalcy. I mean, obviously, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, there are still some COVID aspects that we need to navigate as schools and as athletic departments. But the vast majority, particularly our outdoor sports, are not impacted. Their rules aren't impacted. There's no restrictions on numbers and spectators and all of those things, cross country and field hockey and soccer and football, our outdoor sports are going to be as they normally would be. So I think people are just really excited. And then for volleyball and cheer practices, as well as unified basketball, which starts up later this month, those will be a little bit more challenging. But I still think overall, just knowing that they're going to play again, take a sport like volleyball, they still have to play in masks, which we just learned last week. But they're, hopefully going to be playing in front of a much larger crowd. The rules of the game are going to stay the same. Really, the only difference is that they're required to wear a mask at the moment. And we'll see if that changes, by the end of the season or not.
Absolutely. But I'm sure most of them are used to that by now, unfortunately. So when did that guidance just came out the other day, correct? And that's for the entire state?
Yeah, so it was kind of a combination of things that came together at the same time. So many school districts like Hopkinton were trying to figure out what they were going to do for their schools because at the time it was a local decision. There's recommendation from different governing bodies, but there was no mandate to do anything in particular. And then actually it was, I think, just after Hopkinton had made their decision about masks that DESE then put a statewide mandate in for all K-12 students, staff, et cetera, indoors until at least October 1st. And then the very next day, the MIAA followed up on that DESE mandate saying that that would apply to sports as well. So anyone that is playing sports, officials, coaches, staff, spectators, anyone indoors will be required to wear a mask.
And we're hoping that won't last all year, but who knows what's going to happen as long as they get the games in, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, it certainly would be more impactful in the winter when everybody's indoors. But, as we've learned throughout this process, things are constantly changing. It's very fluid. If anything, we've gotten very good at changing on the fly and adjusting, and the student athletes, the coaches and their families have all been amazing, and just we've had so many changes over the past 18 months. And, sometimes I feel horrible because I'm not really giving people much notice. Our volleyball team and cheer teams started their tryouts and opening practices not wearing masks. And then about 3 or 4 days in, I don't remember how many days, when that change came in, they had to wear masks. So these things are just changing constantly, and the kids just roll with it, and they're doing a great job.
Absolutely. They've had to adjust to a lot over these last couple of years. So I'm curious as to, knock on wood, hopefully this doesn't happen, but if there's any situation where games need to be moved or canceled, I know there's a certain amount of games that each team has to get in. Is there any kind of leniency towards that? Shall something happen where maybe a week of games can't get played?
Yeah, certainly. Hopefully we don't come into that situation. I think for us too, we have such a large number of our student athletes that are vaccinated. And so the rules regarding quarantines are a little bit different than they were last year. So hopefully we don't run into that, but it may not have anything to do with us. We could lose opponents, and games could get canceled due to that reason. So we do have our schedules. They're full schedules. We're moving forward in terms of as we normally would with our league schedule, our non-league schedule, tournaments, et cetera. The state tournament will be as it normally is. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. It's actually a new statewide tournament going into effect this year. But, what I mean is that the state tournament's moving forward. So I think what would happen is, and this is true of weather, if we run into a situation where we have to cancel a game because of weather, and this does happen, and then we reschedule it, and then we have to cancel it again because of weather, and then we run out of dates, you can apply to the MIAA to consider that game a no contest so that you don't so neither team wins, neither team loses, and it doesn't have a negative impact on anybody. So I would imagine if we run into a situation due to COVID that they would be obviously very flexible. And maybe we were supposed to play 18 games, but we only played 16. That's fine.
And I haven't heard anything about Triple E yet, so that's good.
Don't jinx anything.
Just jinx it.
Don't jinx anything.
So how did the scheduling go? It looks like you have everything squared away. Was it a relatively easy process for you to get those schedules together?
Yeah, honestly, the scheduling was pretty easy. The hardest part is usually our freshman teams and our middle school teams and finding opponents for those schools. But at the varsity level and even at the JV level, pretty much everyone in our league has JV and varsity. So that's most of your schedule. And then you pick up a couple non-league teams, and many of whom we've played for years. We've been playing Wayland in football, Barnstable in volleyball, Bishop Feen and boys soccer. We've kind of had similar type matchups, prior to COVID, and now we've kind of brought those matchups back. Cross country we'll go back to participating in a lot of the MSTCA meets. We're still not quite sure what cheer competitions are going to look like because of the mask mandate, and competitions are indoors. So we're still kind of waiting on guidance on that. Golf, same thing. We were able to pick up some non-league matches against some, quality opponents to hopefully challenge our team. But again, the scheduling really kind of came together pretty well. And then it's just a matter of figuring out where to put everyone, since so many of our teams use the same fields. But no, we're excited to get going. Our first contest is tomorrow. Golf opens our fall season tomorrow with their first match. Golf usually gets going kind of quicker than everyone because they also end earlier because of daylight issues,
right,
at golf courses. So their season ends a little bit earlier than some of our other fall teams. Hopefully the weather will pan out, since we're getting the remnants of Ida rolling through tomorrow and Thursday, which could cause some issues.
Yeah.
But again, hopefully we can get the golf match in. If not, obviously we'll reschedule it. But we're excited to have our first event tomorrow, first day of school, first athletic event. Should be a lot of fun.
And have you talked to any of the athletes? They must be excited to hopefully have a normal season this year.
Oh, absolutely. We had a meeting with the captains last week, and I've just gotten to see a lot of the students, competing and chatting with them. And again, everyone was excited last year because we had lost sports, right? We had lost sports all spring. And so there was a certain level of excitement last fall, but it was also, very challenging, right? Everyone was wearing masks, even outdoors. Spectators were very limited. You couldn't go to away games. The rules of the sport changed significantly. There was no league championships. It was great. Honestly, it was something, right? And people were excited. But I think now the fact that we're kind of fully back, there's definitely a renewed sense of optimism. There's a lot of excitement, especially for the seniors. I mean, if you think of the seniors, they've had one, and this is true of all grades, but the seniors have had one quote unquote normal year of high school.
Right.
And that was their freshman year. So, I think for them to be able to hopefully have a chance to really have that final season, which is something that the last two senior classes haven't necessarily been able to say, depending on what sport they played. So I think there's a lot of optimism that we're going to have 3 full seasons, and not just for the seniors, for everyone, but I think for the seniors, obviously, it's their last chance. And I think that's how people have felt the last couple of years, right? You particularly feel bad for the seniors who are kind of losing out on that final opportunity.
Absolutely. And hopefully they'll get that one normal year in. I noticed there was a few 6 o'clock football games this year rather than the typical 7 o'clock times. What's the reason for that?
So it actually it's kind of now changed again. But so when we scheduled Tewksbury, as we all know, they live pretty far away. So they kind of requested if we could play 6 o'clock so they're not getting home super late. And then we were also playing at Nauset in week 2, which obviously is a really long ride. So that's also a 6 o'clock start. So then we just felt like maybe it made some sense to kind of have a few games in a row that were the same time so they could kind of get into a groove before we make the switch back to 7 o'clock. So there's really no major reason for it. It was just trying to, be a good host to a team that was traveling quite far away to come to us. And then rather than going 7-6, 7-6, 7-6, we did, 3 in a row at 6 o'clock. And then we switched to the 7 o'clock, starting with Foxborough, and then moving into our league season, we go to 7 o'clock. Now, our schedule has since changed, and Nauset had to move our game back to a 7 o'clock start. So now it actually does look a little more disjointed, but that was not the plan that we had in place when we put the schedule together.
Yeah, it is what it is, right? as long as they get them in.
Right.
And also, as far as volleyball, I think I noticed some time differences there as well. I believe it was either freshman or JV starting a little earlier than normal.
So the reason we do that is the JV1 and JV2 teams technically play kind of at the same time, but the reason we do it is it's for officials. So the 2 JV matches each have one official, and then those officials come together for the varsity. And because we play our JV2 matches over at Brown, we start it 15 minutes early so that the official has a little extra time to get over to the athletic center, so that hopefully we're not delaying the start of the varsity game waiting for that official to come over. So that's the only reason for that. So we just start JV2 like 15 minutes early so that hopefully both officials are kind of there at the same time to get ready for the varsity match.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Well, I know Coach Skiba was excited that there'll be throw-ins this year, and we'll have some normal soccer, and hopefully it'll be a good fall season.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all excited. I think our teams are primed to do quite well. Last fall was very weird, obviously, but our team still did well, within the pod system and within the rules that we had to play. And we have a lot of kids back from those teams. So I think there's a lot of optimism, but at the same time, we're not really sure who we're playing against, right? Like most years you kind of know, and you kind of have a sense of how teams might be from one year to another year. Like, the coaches obviously keep track of which players are returning on different teams. This year is going to be a little odd in that respect. It's going to be kind of a fresh start for a lot of these teams. So our field hockey team was actually a very senior laden team the last couple of years. So we've had a lot of turnover with our field hockey team. So it's very much a fresh start for them as well, coming off last year's 7v7 style, now going back to the typical 11v11 and things like that. So, we're back at the state park for cross country, whereas last year we weren't able to use the state park. So those teams are excited to be able to do that. And they weren't able to do those other races, those larger races, the divisional races, the MSTCA races, they go down to Barnstable every year and do a race under the lights at night, which is really cool. So we're able to kind of do all of those things again. So I think that's part of where the excitement comes from, is that there just is going to be a little bit more normalcy. Even if they have to wear a mask when they're in the locker room and on the bus and in the weight room, there's still more normalcy than there was. And we got a taste of this last spring when we could start playing outdoor sports without masks. And we got some really cool experiences. We wrestled outdoors. And obviously we got to host the state championship in baseball.
That'll come back, the outdoor wrestling. Well, actually, that's in the winter now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think so, simply because if it's played in the winter like it normally is, I don't know that anybody wants to wrestle outside in January. So
that sport, I have to imagine, is quite difficult with a mask on, because that is a very strenuous sport. But hopefully by then we won't be wearing them, but we'll see what happens. Right. In any case, we're hoping for a good fall season. And I think one of the other interesting things is you had some athletes last year play those fall sports that typically play football or one of the other wrestling that got pushed off. So they'll a lot of those athletes will be back to their normal sports, but we're hoping for a good season. And thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us. And I'm sure we'll catch up with you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. Look forward to seeing you guys out at the fields. And thanks again for all your support of our student athletes. We really appreciate it.
And of course, we'll have coverage on HCAM, and we'll have our broadcast schedule up on a weekly basis, so you'll be able to see where we're at. We're planning on covering all the home games we can. Obviously, weather could be an issue in some instances, but we're going to cover pretty much all the home games. So we're looking forward to that. Thanks so much, Rich.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Talk to you soon.
Hello, everybody. Tom Nappy here. And for this segment, we are joined by Andy Barron from MyFM 101.3 and Steve Watson, who is a volunteer for us here at HCAM. He's worked with me on a number of games and also a reporter for tvlsports.net. Guys, how are you?
Good, Tom. How about you?
Good. Can't complain. Can't complain. And I guess we're doing this segment at exactly the right time. Some big breaking news today. The Patriots have cut Cam Newton and Mac Jones. He's the guy. It's official. Cam Newton history. And right now they cut Hoyer as well, but they're expected to sign him back. That's most likely just a tricky roster move where they could get someone on the roster and then throw him on the injured list.
Exactly right.
Rumor is it's for N'Keal Harry. So I expect Hoyer to be back, but Cam Newton is gone, which to me, it was a shocker. I mean, obviously Cam Newton had his struggles last year. We figured that there's certainly a chance he could lose the job, but to be straight out cut, I thought they were going to keep the guy as at least a backup for Mac Jones. And I thought Newton would at least be starting the first game of the season, but hey, I was wrong. It's Mac Jones time. What do you guys think about this?
Absolutely shocking news. I couldn't believe it. Really. I was stunned. I think many people were. Maybe some people weren't surprised. But one thing says this to me, and I was telling Steve this before we came on, the Patriots are all in on Mac Jones. I mean, there's no question about it. He really had a tremendous preseason. I personally believe he outplayed the entire rookie class of quarterbacks in 2021. Who else was better than him? Really? I mean, he looks poised. He's got a winning attitude. This guy is all business. He's all football. Now, don't take this the wrong way. He's got a little bit of a Tom Brady mentality. Now, there's only one Brady, like I always said, but that really, I just like the way the guy, he's prepared. He's ready to win. He asked Bill Belichick for a key to the stadium. I mean, who does that? This guy is all in. I'm ready. This place is going to be rocking in 2 weeks. I mean, how can you not be excited? He's the first rookie to start since Drew Bledsoe. I mean, this is an historic moment for this franchise. This guy is the real deal.
I think so. Steve, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I'm not shocked that they released Cam when they made him the backup. I figured if he was going to be the backup, then he would not be on the roster. The only way he'd be on the roster was if he was the starter. So, honestly, I thought that they would wait as long as they could. I thought they'd keep both on the roster and then maybe make a move next week. And you have the Dolphins week 1, obviously a lot of folks down there, a lot of folks up here. So you want to keep secrets as much as you can. But yeah, more surprised at the timing of it. I thought maybe that they might wait. But I love the announcement. I think it's the right move for the team. Bill always says you got to do what's in the best interest of the football team. And Mac Jones gives you the best chance to win. So Bill did what's best for the football team, and named Mac Jones the starter and cut Cam Newton.
And Bill's done this before. He put Tom Brady in over Drew Bledsoe. He's used to doing this.
Exactly. In a crucial moment in the Super Bowl, you just beaten the Steelers with Drew Bledsoe for most of that game. Mm-hmm. But Brady was the one who got you that far. So he made the unpopular move, and for some people at least, and started Tom Brady, and it worked out pretty good.
Well, as much as I love Bledsoe, I was for Brady in that situation.
Oh, same here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that was almost 20 years ago now.
I mean, they were 0-2 with Bledsoe, if you recall that season.
They were, and then he got hurt, that hit by Mo Lewis.
Yep.
Who knows?
The unsung hero of the Brady era.
I think Damon Heward was ahead of Tom Brady at one point during that season, which is just it's hard to even fathom. But what we're saying here is like these are huge moments in this franchise's history. I mean, and again, we don't know for sure how good Mac Jones will be, but
I mean, if he goes 6-11, it won't be that huge, but it could be. It could be. I do think the guy's good. He looked great in the preseason. I know it's preseason. You got to take it with a grain of salt, but I liked what I saw. I think he could throw downfield. He could run a very similar offense to what they had with Brady, which is more to McDaniel's liking. I'm sure McDaniel's was a big advocate for getting Mac Jones to be the starter, because I think that's more his style of offense rather than the, diamond dink offense and the run offense that you had with Cam Newton. McDaniels, he likes to mix it up. He likes to throw the ball. And with Mac Jones, you could line him up in the gun and haul it out there because the guy has a cannon for an arm. So I liked what I saw. I'm not disappointed they cut Newton. I didn't think it would happen. I think Newton has potential. I think he probably will get signed somewhere else. I mean, I know there's the whole COVID vaccine situation with him, and I think that played a huge role in the Pats cutting him too, because he didn't really make it known, I guess, that he was unvaccinated, and there was people that weren't very happy about that, I guess, in the organization because of the ridiculous rules that Goodell implemented. As far as that goes, obviously with those rules, it could cost a team games. If there's a guy not vaccinated and you have a COVID outbreak, it could cost you a game. So I think that certainly had a factor in it. And I think that might have been the nail in the coffin for Cam Newton here. I think that's what really made the Pats cut him. I don't think that they planned on cutting this guy one way or the other. I think they actually planned on starting him game one. But I think it had a lot to do with that COVID situation and why they cut him.
Yeah, Tom, I think I have to agree with you on that. I mean, say if the Patriots had an outbreak on the team and now you don't have a quarterback and then you got to stop forfeiting games, it just doesn't look good. I do think, though, do you think Mac Jones just outplayed him, though? And I mean, I know Cam had some good games, but
game one, Mac Jones did, but game 2 and 3 was pretty close, and you didn't really see a whole lot of Newton in game 2 and 3, which made me think even more that he's the starter.
Yeah, same here. But, some of these throws that he made, I was like, wow. I mean, seriously. And the receiver's got to catch the ball because some of these throws were right on the money. And I have not seen a throw like that since Tom Brady, really. I mean, that really, really opened my eyes up. And you know what else I really liked about him too? He seemed to have a really good rapport with Jacoby Myers in the field and Christian Wilkinson. I don't know if he'll be back, but Mac Jones has a good team around him. He's got a good, solid line. The Patriots running game is going to be solid. I still think they're going to be a run first type of team. And we're going to have growing pains too. We're not going 15-2 with this team. I mean, let's face it, but wouldn't you rather just maybe struggle with Mac Jones and then you play Cam Newton for 5 or 6 games and you don't really know? I think this is the right move. And I did like Cam Newton, but it's time to move on. We had to start building for the future. And clearly that's what they did.
Right.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think if you sat Mac till say week 6, like the Dolphins did with Tua last year, then you don't really know what you have truly, because they started Fitzmagic the first 6 weeks, and then you start Tua the final 10. right, so it's a sample size, but it's not a full sample size. So I think it's good. Well, let's find out what we have right now.
Yeah, I just can't resist. I have to share this. It is one of the funniest things that I've seen. What a great meme.
Truth.
It doesn't get any better than that. Oh, it's so true. It really looks like it actually happened. But sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. And as for the vaccine status, it is up to each person if they want to get it or not. But the protocols for the unvaccinated, these players in pro football, they do invite a lot of potential disruptions. Disruptions are bad for the team. And like I said before, you got to do what's in the best interest of the football team. And disruptions are not in anyone's best interest. So I don't think it was the deciding factor, but I think it maybe played a role.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, whether you agree with what Goodell did or not, that is true. It's so strict that you just kind of have to do it really if you're in the NFL. But, I do respect everyone's decision as far as that. But yeah, I mean, it could be a major disruption and potentially cost the team games. And I think the fact that they didn't even know he wasn't vaccinated, I think played a major role in it.
Yeah, and of course, he was out for a few days last week. So, it's not even the regular season yet. And already you had a disruption. So I think that just maybe invites more problems if you kept him on the roster.
Yeah, and Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick, they don't want any more bad publicity. They've already taken a major hit with Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. They don't want it anymore. And this was just going to continue to be a problem every single week. The media is going to continue to ask these questions. Bill doesn't want to deal with this. And I guess the question I have too, does Cam Newton get another job somewhere else? There's been people saying he could go to Washington. He could go to maybe Houston.
Well, the rumor mill is saying that Dallas has some interest.
Dallas?
Yeah, Dallas of all teams.
Oh, that team is a disaster.
I mean, he would clearly be a backup there behind Dak Prescott, but really? I could see that being a pretty good fit. I mean, if you're Cam Newton at this point in your career, and especially with the season that you had last year, you have to expect that you're likely going to be a backup wherever you go.
No chance to be a starter. No. None.
Yeah, I can't see any team realistically wanting him as a starter.
No.
Right. No, I can't either. I mean, unless your starter gets hurt early on, obviously, but I think he'd be one of the better backups in the league for sure. I still think the guy could play a little bit. And again, he looked pretty good in those second 2 preseason games. And there was games last year that he looked pretty good. There was games last year he looked really bad. But I think he would definitely be one of the most upscale backups in the league.
Here's a team to throw out. How about Cincinnati? You don't know with Joe Burrow's situation with he's clearly the future, but coming off a major injury, and could a team like that maybe want to give him a backup job?
Yeah, and they probably still won't protect him because they didn't last year, which is what led to him getting hurt.
Yeah.
So, I could have told you that back in week 2. I think they had him passed like 60 times. And they're going to get this guy killed out there. And sure enough, I think week 10 and week 11, he got hurt.
Talented player, though. He is really good.
Super talented. A very talented player playing for a very bad franchise and a very bad coaching staff.
What is up with these SEC quarterbacks? Like they just seem to always just be like diamonds in the rough. I mean, really. So many good players have come out of the SEC.
Yeah, that whole conference is just loaded with talent, top to bottom. Even the teams kind of down bottom, you can really churn out some really good pro talent.
Well, I mean, if you look at if you look at the Alabama players who are going to be starting this year, they're all a lot of them out of the 2017 class. What a class that was. You got Tua in Miami. You got Mac Jones. You got the running back Najee. I forget his first name. You got a couple of offensive tackles, and you got Judy.
Najee Harris.
Jared Judy, Smith, and Ruggs. Ruggs over in Vegas. Where's Smith? I don't know. But these are all guys out of the Alabama 2017 class. What an elite class that was. I'll tell you one thing, though. I mean, seeing Tua play, obviously we haven't seen Mac Jones in regular season action yet, but seeing Tua play last year, I don't think Tua looked great at all. So I think Miami should probably be a little bit worried about what you're going to get out of that guy. I actually have more confidence with Mac Jones rather than Tua.
I agree 100%, Tom. I just think Mac Jones, he just seems like he's got it. Like, I don't know. I mean, again, he has not played a regular season game yet, but just watching his presence, the way he's learning, I think Tua, Tua had a bad injury too, and I don't know if that's kind of affected him as well. But I think Jones just looks better. And if you're the dog,
was it Mac Jones who had that great throw to N'Keal Harry, where Harry
and he dropped it
shoulder? Yeah,
on the money.
A beautiful throw.
It was on the money. Like, wow,
This offense could be really interesting because they finally have a quarterback that could throw the long ball. He could throw a dart in the short game, and you got those tight ends, so you'll be certainly utilizing them. And you got, some good speedy receivers too, that could burn guys. They got a lot more speed this year on the offense than they had last year. And they have a lot more power with guys like Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, but with Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, those are fast receivers. And then you throw Jacoby Myers in there. I mean, you could have a lot of speed out there on the field. So you kind of need a quarterback that can throw the long ball.
Yeah, but all those guys, all I have to do is just catch the ball. Because that's been a problem the last few years. A lot of drops. Guys can't get open. The receiving core, especially the last 2 years, has just been dreadful. So improvements much needed. You have two great tight ends. I love those two signings. You haven't really got much out of that spot since Gronk retired.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially have a Gronk and Aaron Hernandez type of situation with those.
Essentially, yeah.
Well, hopefully
it might not be the exact same offense that they ran back in those years, but I think you're going to see a lot of similar plays.
Hopefully not an Aaron Hernandez off-field situation, but
please.
Hopefully we avoid that.
No more, please. But I'm also the Patriots running game. I mean, if they're not going to be one of the best in the NFL, they're going to be right up there. These Damian Harris looked great in the preseason. This guy he gets like 4 or 5 yards of carry when he carries the ball. Of course, health will be an issue with him. You got to love James White. I loved Ramondre Stevenson. This guy was he kind of reminded me a little bit of LeGarrette Blount, but I think he's better.
I think he's faster.
Yes.
I mean, he's fast, Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
He's a fast, powerful back.
And
I liked him too. I think he's going to be great.
And JJ Taylor. How do you defend this? Really? This is going to be tough. And then you could sprinkle in Brandon Bolden a little bit there as well. Sony Michel got traded. I think it was the right move. I told you last week he was probably going to be the odd guy out, and he was. I cannot wait for this first game. I mean, let's go. I mean, we got Mac on the field now, and hopefully he can stay healthy. And, who is the backup? Like, they're probably going to bring Hoyer back, but do they go out and sign somebody else? Is Jarrett Stidham even?
I think you need to. You can't just rely on Hoyer. I mean, let's face it, Mac Jones, he's battling some knee issues. I mean, he's been using different braces and things like that. So that's a little worrisome. And he's not the biggest guy. I mean, he takes a couple of bad hits. He could be knocked out for a game or two. So I think you want, especially with a rookie at the helm, I think you need 3 quarterbacks. You need to go out and sign somebody else. And, there's guys out there. There's a lot of free agents out there, but I can't picture them rolling with 2 quarterbacks.
No, not, and especially with the uncertainty with COVID. I mean, we have to talk about it. Unfortunately, that could be an issue. And I believe, Hoyer and Mac Jones are both vaccinated, but I was just saying, like, does Jarrett Stidham get healthy? And does he, like, I'm still just stunned this guy is still on the roster. Like, they're saying he could be out till maybe November, but
he's out at least 6 weeks because he's on the PUP list.
The PUP list. Who are the big backups that are available right now? Does anybody even? I can't even think of anybody.
We'll have to go through the Google machine and look some up.
I don't even know. Yeah.
I was trying to. There was one I was thinking about earlier, but I'll try to think of it as we
go. Is Nick Foles available?
I don't believe so.
I would consider him.
Actually, I think he's in Jacksonville.
No, he's with the Bears.
The Bears have like 40 quarterbacks.
Dolphins going to start Fields, and they also have Foles. They may have cut one of them today. I haven't checked. I think the final cut down was at 3:00 or something like that.
I would have even considered Gardner Minshew, and then he got traded to Philadelphia. That would have been
for a 6th-round pick, which is not bad.
yeah.
Someone's going to end up dropping somebody with all these cuts. So there'll be somebody floating around out there. Maybe you could call Tim Tebow up.
Oh, please.
Another surprising move the Patriots made, though, that I want to talk a little bit about. As far as the kicking game, they're going with the rookie, Quinn Nordine. Bye-bye Nick Folk. They've cut him. I would have thought Nordine was going to go to the practice squad because I think he does have potential. The problem with Nordine has been his short field goals have not been good. His long ball has been great. But Nick Folk, I mean, he was very stable for you last season, field goal wise. So I was kind of surprised that they let Folk go and they're sticking with Nordine on game one. You obviously don't want a field goal kicker that's missing too many 30-yard field goals because let's face it, those are the field goals you're probably going to kick the most. So you need a guy who hit those short field goals. And I think this could backfire big time if Nordine comes in and he, misses a couple of short field goals that could have given him 6 points and maybe that loses him a game. This could really backfire, but this move surprised me. But I think obviously Belichick sees something in this guy and he feels like he should be the kicker.
Well, he must see it in practice because it sure didn't show in the preseason games.
Well, besides the 51-yarder he made in game 3, that was nice. And then he almost made that 54-yarder.
Yeah.
He was just a little off on that one. But yeah, I mean, in practice, though, I was hearing he was making 60-yarders, which obviously in practice, it's easier. Can he do that in the game situation? Well, Belichick must think he can, but I don't know if Nick Folk's going anywhere, but it is possible because there's a number of teams that have a lot of big question marks at their kicker position because there's not a great amount of kickers in the NFL right now that are really good. So, Nick Folk could certainly be scooped up, especially after what he did last year, putting up pretty good numbers. But I guess at this point, hey, you got to hope Nordine's your guy. He's the guy you're going with. So
situations like this, they make you appreciate the 14 seasons or 13 seasons, whatever it was that you got out of Steven Gostkowski. Just very reliable year in, year out. Vinatieri before him, obviously. The Pats have had it pretty good at kicker.
I wouldn't call Gostkowski reliable every year, though. He had a few bad years. But yes, overall, in his career, he was
the best kickers of all time, Tom.
No, that'd be Vinatieri.
Whether you want to admit it or not.
That'd be Vinatieri. That's not even a debate. Adam Vinatieri's probably the greatest kicker that ever played in the NFL, in my opinion.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. But I like Nordine. I think they kept him because they know if they cut him, there's no way they probably can get him to the practice squad. Somebody would have scooped him up because this guy's leg is booming. I mean, some of the kicks. So I think they're going to take a chance with them. We'll see what happens. I mean, if Nick Folk doesn't get picked up, maybe they'll put him back on the practice squad just to have, I guess, I think somebody probably will pick him up. But another thing too is they might want him helping out Jake Bailey as well. Maybe, with kickoffs and stuff like that. So
one last thing on his plate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jake Bailey, this guy is just wow.
Oh, he's incredible.
Incredible punter. I mean,
he might be the best punter in the NFL.
He might be the best punter the Patriots have ever had. I mean, and including in the NFL. I've never seen anybody like this guy. I mean, really, he's unreal.
Yeah, really. He is very impressive. You don't have to worry at that position. That's for sure.
No, that's and of course, long snapper too. And they got Joe Cardona, same thing. You don't have to worry about any of that. You're fine on special teams.
Definitely. And then one of the other offensive guys they cut was Isaiah Zuber. So they're narrowing down that receiver core a little bit. And it's looking like, I think in my personal opinion, I think they probably cut Hoyer to put N'Keal Harry on the PUP list. And they're going to keep Harry for whatever reason and bring back Hoyer. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought Harry would be the one that was cut because he has just done nothing but struggle. But it doesn't appear that Belichick's ready to give up on the guy.
No, and you're going to have to – they can't just cut a first-round pick. I mean, they're going to have to get something if they tried to trade him. I don't know if they could, but you're still a little thin at receiver. So maybe they're trying to keep him around just to, see what he can do, but not very encouraging. I mean, that I'm not relying on N'Keal Harry to be a top receiver for this Patriots team, because right now, Jacoby Myers is your best receiver. He's earned that spot. He's earned it.
We have some breaking news.
Oh, we do.
Sound the breaking news sounder, Steve. The Patriots announced that they have acquired offensive lineman Yasir Durant in a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs. Terms of the trade were not announced. Durant's a 23-year-old. Originally entered the NFL as a rookie free agent with Kansas City in 2020 out of Missouri. 6'7", 330-pounder, played in 11 games with one start at right guard versus the Chargers on January 3rd. So they got themselves a new offensive lineman, Yasir Durant.
Patriots offensive line is just, you got Trent Brown, Isaiah Wynn, Andrews, and they're just
big guys up there
loading up on the front, because it all starts up front. That's what it is in football. Why do you think the Dallas Cowboys were so successful in the 90s? They had maybe the greatest offensive line ever assembled. I'm not saying that this Patriots team is going to be like that, but they certainly are big up front. They're going to cause a lot of problems.
You got to win those battles in the trenches.
Well, especially having a small guy like Mac Jones as your quarterback. That is not a quarterback you want to take that many hits. You got to protect that guy.
Sure, look at Patrick
He has to
Mahomes.
be smart as well.
Right. And Mahomes has been shooken up a number of times. He was
Mayfield.
He was almost knocked unconscious in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, because he couldn't finish that game. The Browns almost won that one.
That was incredible. We were talking about that last week, how Chad Henne won the game for the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was so bad on the Browns' part.
Oh my God. Just
that was their one chance to go to the AFC Championship. You couldn't have a better chance than that, and they just couldn't do it.
If the Chiefs cut him, I would sign Chad Henne as my backup. I'd sign him. He's a solid backup. But I don't think they will.
I don't think they will, though.
No.
Steve, were you saying something?
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, the Chiefs and the Browns meet in week 1. So that's a little bit of a storyline right there.
That's going to be a good game. I like the Browns this year. I think Mayfield's going to take a step up.
Yeah, if he can just cut down on mistakes, then I think he'll be fine. And I think that Pats Browns game out here in November is going to be a good one too.
Should be. Yeah. And I'm also looking at some stats here too. I don't know if you guys know this, but when was the last time that actually 4 rookies could be starting in the NFL this year? I can't even remember. Listen, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees did not start their rookie season. I think Peyton Manning did. But this could really be quite the year. When was the last time this happened?
I couldn't tell you, but it is going to be interesting. That's for sure.
I mentioned maybe 19 in the 80s. When John Elway, Jim Kelly, and Dan Marino were drafted. You're going way back, but it does not happen often.
No. Yeah, so you're going to have at least 3, maybe 4, depending on what the Niners do. I'm not sure what they're doing out there. Are they going to start Garoppolo? Is it going to be Trey Lance? Will it be both? I don't know.
How can Chicago not start Justin Fields? What are they doing? Seriously.
They don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. No.
That's ridiculous. Fields looked great in the preseason. I was watching him a little bit. He looked good. That guy's ready to go.
And
they go with Dalton, and they also have Foles on the roster still as well.
Listen, if you're Mac Jones, you got to be counting your blessings that you're with the New England Patriots. He could have been in Chicago, Jacksonville. He could have been with the Jets. I'm going to tell you this right now. If he starts winning, teams are going to regret not drafting him.
Oh, definitely.
Because he was there for the taking.
1,000%, Andy.
Well, he fell in the draft because of injury problems, right?
No. He just fell.
I just think that.
I think, you know what it was? It was the Alabama quarterback curse. Because you get a lot of these Alabama quarterbacks, they come into the NFL and they're not great because they've been surrounded by super talent their whole college career. And then obviously in the NFL, it's a little more even. So maybe that was it.
Yeah, but guys who come before Mac Jones at Bama have no bearing on his success.
I think the
Five-
guy's going to be good, though. I really do.
5 quarterbacks taken in the top 15 in the draft. It's stunning. I mean, the next guy to go was Kyle Trask, who went to back up Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. I mean, that should tell you something right there. Like, this class was loaded with
Loaded
talent.
class.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was the real reason that he dropped. It was a loaded class. So much talent at the quarterback position. But I just want to quickly run through some of the moves the Pats made on Tuesday. The Patriots placed defensive lineman Byron Cowart, cornerback Stephen Gilmore, and linebacker Terez Hall, and quarterback Stidham on the reserve PUP list, physically unable to perform. 2021 draft pick safety Joshua Bledsoe and linebacker Cameron McGrone on the reserve non-football injury list, which probably means they're going to the training squad, and linebacker Anthony Jennings on injured reserve. Patriots released the following players: defensive lineman Montravis Adams, defensive lineman Tashawn Bauer, defensive back Miles Bryant. That's kind of a surprise. Defensive back Adrian Colbert, offensive lineman Corey Cunningham, offensive lineman James Ferentz, kicker Nick Folk, quarterback Brian Hoyer, cornerback Michael Jackson Sr., no relation to the singer, tight end Matt Lacoste, that was expected. Defensive lineman Bill Murray, Cam Newton, wide receiver Trey Nixon, Alex Redmond, who's an O-lineman, defensive back D'Angelo Ross, offensive lineman Will Sherman, defensive lineman Akeem Spence, defensive lineman Nick Thurman, defensive back D. Virgin, wide receiver Christian Wilkerson. I was kind of surprised by that. I thought Wilkerson had a really good preseason. And Isaiah Zuber, who really didn't have a bad preseason either. Any of those names of the release stick out to you guys?
Wilkerson, I think, he could be a practice squad guy. That wouldn't surprise me if he were to get on the practice squad. Maybe James Ferentz a little bit, but there's a lot of depth on the Patriots offensive line. I think Wilkerson was definitely probably and obviously Cam Newton were probably the two biggest surprises.
Oh, yeah. Cam Newton's the biggest. There's no doubt.
Of course.
Steve, what about you? Any of those names stick out to you?
Wilkerson for sure. I thought he had a pretty good preseason. Thought he might stick on the roster. Newton, I figured if he was going to be the backup, I figured they would just cut him. I didn't think he'd be very accepting of a backup role. He's never been a backup. So
I think he would at this point in his career. I really wanted him, if they were going to use him as a backup, I really wanted him to throw him into some of those wildcat formations. I think there's a lot of trick plays you could have done
with Hill, something like that. But of course, a lot of guys like Cam. So then if he's the backup, that could create a split in the locker room. And you just want to avoid that. You don't even want anyone even thinking about it. So I think it's just the right move. Onward and upward. And as Bill says, we're on to Miami.
Yes, exactly. And I agree with you, Steve. I did like Cam. I mean, I know he took a lot of bad rap here, but at some point you got to stop building for your future. Cam's not part of the future. Let's face it. And let's see what we got with Mac Jones. I mean, you never know for sure, but you can't help but not being excited. I mean, his shirts sold out in an hour today at Gillette Stadium.
Sold out.
When was the last time you saw the hype like this? I mean, it's
been... Just remember how loud the crowd was when
that was good
preseason game. That was that gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, how could it not? I mean, they see the talent here and very excited.
Yeah, or on draft night when they announced the pick and all of us are jumping for joy. In the future. I know I was. I know that you were, Tom.
Yeah, drop pizza everywhere.
Jared wasn't excited. He wasn't excited. He already told us. But listen, I'm ready for Miami. This is going to be a great game. This place is going to be rocking. And it just, I know everyone's got the Tampa Bay game circled on their calendar. But listen, you take one game at a time and then you worry about it, going forward. But I like the Patriots week 1. I do.
Yep, same here. I think Pat's in a close one.
I just think Miami's just, I don't know. I think they're walking into a buzzsaw. Coming up here week 1, and they're a good team. I mean,
you got a nice schedule the first 4 weeks. I mean, it's Miami, then what? The Jets and
Jets on the road, Saints at home.
Yeah, the Saints. They just named Jameis Winston their starter. I don't fear him. I mean,
no.
And they don't have Michael Thomas. He just went on the PUP list, I mean, who's just a phenomenal receiver. So, I mean, they're already down their best player. No, I like the
where they're going to be playing week 1. It won't be in New Orleans.
No, that's terrible. Yeah, you're right.
Probably stay in Dallas and play the Packers there week 1.
Yeah, it's not.
Actually, New Orleans will not be in New Orleans all of September.
Really?
Yeah, so weeks 1 and 4, they won't be at the Superdome.
What a terrible situation down there. Just praying for the people in Louisiana. What a horrible storm, really.
Absolutely. I mean, that was brutal. And I mean, I guess, it was great that levee system they built worked for the most part. I know there was some parts of Louisiana that still got really flooded, but if you didn't have that levee system, I mean, that city would have been even more of a mess. But we're certainly praying for all the people down there.
Yeah, the entire city lost power. Just unfathomable, really.
That's
that
crazy.
A city that large can just lose. The whole city lost power. Unreal.
Yep. Just nuts. Hopefully we don't get any more of those this year, but the ocean's kind of hot down there, so we still might. I did want to mention Malcolm Butler, the cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals, likely retiring due to personal reasons. So we'll certainly miss Malcolm Butler in the league. He is a Super Bowl hero. I will never forget that tremendous interception in 2018 against the Seahawks. And we wish him well.
Malcolm Butler, I mean, even after he left the Patriots, he still was pretty solid. You got to,
he was.
Career. Yeah.
Oh, he was very good.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a rough break for the Cardinals there. Was it the Cardinals?
Yeah, he was with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Played for Tennessee and then he went to the Cardinals.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a rough break for him because they needed help in their secondary.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad time until you get the season opener in only 12 days, and now he's going to retire. That's.
Oh, who knows? He might be back. I mean, you got that window. You could come back. Maybe if he gets through whatever he's going on in his personal life, he'll be back. But you never know. But we certainly wish him the best. So we did mean to talk about fantasy football on this show, but obviously there was just huge news with the Pats, so we had to get into that a lot. But we have about 5-6 minutes left, so I do want to ask you guys some fantasy football questions. Who do you think is going to be the biggest surprise this year? It could be a rookie, it could be a veteran. Like, what are some players you think that people aren't really looking at that could just have a tremendous season? And I am totally throwing you both in the fire because I did not.
Of course you are.
Prior to the show, but that's what we do here.
That's what we do, right? I think a guy this actually just popped into my head, Aaron Rodgers, because I think he's just gonna go off this year. I mean, it's just everything that he's gone through. This is probably his last year in Green Bay. That might be a guy you might want to consider drafting.
I like that. I mean, this is essentially a contract year for him because it's likely his last year with the Packers. So, I mean, he doesn't have to audition that much. He certainly wants to have a good season. But I think if he just has an unbelievable year, he will get a boatload of money from a new team next year. So I think you're right. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be someone to look out for this year. Steve, what about you? Anyone off the top of your head that you think is going to pop this year?
I agree with the Aaron Rodgers situation. I think he'll be very motivated, much like Brady was here in his last handful of years. So I think that's a good pick. And I kept him in one league from last year, and I drafted him in another league that I joined. As for the unproven players, so the younger guys, 2 young receivers who I drafted and have an eye on, Chase Claypool from the Steelers and Laviska Shenault from the Jaguars. Both can play multiple roles. Both have a lot of speed. Both can be very explosive. And obviously both those offenses, they're kind of going to be remade. Steelers had no run game at all last year. So they still got the Ben Roethlisberger in there, but I think you'll see a little bit of a different look there. Jacksonville, obviously, that's a total rebuild. Trevor Lawrence will be the quarterback there.
I think Lawrence is going to be good. I think
he's going to do a really good job of getting his guys the ball. I think you're going to see a very good Jaguars offense. I don't know how good that team will be. I think they'll definitely be one of the most intriguing teams, though. But yeah, Claypool and Shenault.
Kyle Pitts from Atlanta.
Yes. The league that I was in drafting last night, he got drafted in the second round.
Second round? I would have
round.
drafted that guy right away. That guy is the real deal.
Yeah,
I mean-
he was drafted 4th overall for hands down the best tight end in the draft, the best tight end prospect in a long time. So, folks, if you want him into your draft, grab him early.
I took Jonathan Taylor with my first pick, Colts running back. He had a breakout year last year, and he's projected to do better this year. And he's really, I mean, the Colts don't have a lot of offensive threats, but this guy could be a beast for sure.
Nothing. They have no quarterback right now.
Right. So they're going to be running the ball a lot. So it's perfect.
Here's one more
At
player,
least.
Justin Herbert from the Chargers. I
That's
think
a popular one. Yep.
he's a good player. Like, he really surprised me last year. I think the Chargers finally have a legit quarterback.
Yeah, and he got tossed right in there, Andy. Remember the
Yeah.
Chargers team doctor broke Tyrod Taylor's ribs.
Oh my, that was crazy. He
Game
almost
week
died.
2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
note to self, don't go to that doctor.
no.
And I'm
No.
glad you said that because I was debating should I get Mike Williams or Juju Smith-Schuster with a pick. They were both available. I ended up taking Williams. Of course, he's questionable now, but that's great. But I ended up taking Williams because I mean, this is a guy that could put up a lot of points, but he's had trouble staying healthy. Smith-Schuster took a step back last year.
Yeah.
And the Steelers had a pretty great season last year, especially for the first 11 weeks where they were undefeated.
And they fell apart.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see if I live to regret that decision, but I do think the
I
Chargers are
don't
going to
think
take a
he
step
will.
up this year.
Juju, he's not really the guy with the Steelers anymore. His antics are very tiring, as we all know. And he went into free agency and no one really wanted him. He's doing it back to the Steelers. So, yeah, his stock's gone down. It's not what it used to be.
It certainly isn't, but believe it or not, we're out of time. And we're going to have a whole lot more fun on the upcoming episodes of HCAM Sports Talk. And we will likely be moving the show to air at a new time. So stay tuned for details on that. We'll certainly keep you updated on our website, hcam.tv, as well as our social media platforms. But HCAM Sports Talk, we're here to stay with you throughout the entire football season. And of course, we'll be talking a whole lot of high school sports on upcoming episodes. And we'll be talking a whole lot of football. We're bringing the picks back every week. We'll do our picks. We'll pick all the games. And then at the end of the year, we'll see who gets the bragging rights. So it should be a whole lot of fun. But Steve, Andy, thanks so much for joining me on the show today.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
It's
Tom.
great to be here.
And thank you all for watching. Take care. Be well. We'll talk to you again soon.